Discovered, a dying millionaire's heartwarming adoption of two homeless twins changes everything. Charlie Green stared out from his penthouse window, watching life swirl beneath him in a city that never paused. At 65, his wealth provided no comfort against the cold grip of terminal illness. The world outside glittered with vibrant colors, but he was trapped in the muted gray of his own existence. Once a savvy businessman, he had spent his life accumulating riches, yet in these sterile walls, all he felt was loneliness. No laughter filled the rooms, no family gathered to share moments that mattered. Just silence. On a particularly biting night, his gaze fell upon two figures shivering in the alley below. Mia and Jake, twin siblings no older than 13, scavenged through garbage bags near a dumpster like fragile ghosts. Their faces were smeared with dirt, their thin bodies wrapped in tattered clothing that barely warded off the biting air. Reflecting upon their struggle laid bare a truth he could no longer ignore. They were a mirror to his own isolation. Instead of summoning security, something deep within him stirred. "Come in," he whispered to himself, confused yet drawn by something colossal. He penned a quiet note, and arranged for it to be delivered. When Mia and Jake stepped into his luxurious apartment, their wide eyes took in the opulence, but it was the warmth of Charlie's invitation that ignited a flicker of hope in their hearts. The trio gathered around his dining table. As spaghetti and meatballs filled their plates, Charlie listened. Each story, bursting with raw truth, wove them closer. Mia spoke of dreams of a steady home, while Jake shared their fears of getting lost in the streets. Charlie felt alive once more, his heart awakening to the joy of shared laughter and deep connections. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but not everyone embraced this beautiful union. Upscale neighbors looked on with raised eyebrows and whispered disdain. "He-us lonely," they murmured, desperate for youth. The ugly judgments hung like thick fog, threatening to unravel the new family they had just crafted. With each added taunt, Charlie felt his bond with Mia and Jake deepen, even as whispers grew into roars. Bound by societal prejudice, the twins began to feel the weight of their presence in Charlie's life too heavy to bear. The night came when Mia and Jake, wanting to spare him further humiliation, chose to slip away back into the shadows they knew. Charlie's heart shattered. He grasped at air, the sound of their absence echoed loudly in his now empty world. The pain of abandonment forced him to confront his own demons. He stood tall before his neighbors, passion burning in his chest as he defended the twins. "Their worth is not measured by their means. They are more than what you think." Would his words ignite change in a city swathed in judgment? Would anyone embrace their collective humanity, or were they doomed to stay divided? A sense of urgency surged through Charlie, as hope flickered dimly, waiting to ignite. The echoes of Charlie's fierce declaration lingered in the air, as tense as the last note of a stirring symphony. He felt their stares, the weight of his neighbor's gaze both icy and unyielding. Each critical look reinforced his resolve. These children, no matter their past, deserved a chance. As the days passed, the emptiness of his penthouse gnawed at Charlie. He had tasted joy, laughter, and the warmth of companionship, only to lose it in a heartbeat. He spent hours staring at the door, half expecting it to swing open to reveal Mia and Jake. But each creak of the floorboards beneath his feet only served as a reminder of their absence. In his solitude, a relentless fire burned within him. He couldn't let the shadows claim Mia and Jake, or himself. That spark ignited every fiber of his being, urging him to act. He knew he had to find them, to make them understand that they weren't alone anymore. Charlie spent countless hours asking around the streets, visiting shelters, and even graffiti-covered walls where the twins might have hung out. "Have you seen them?" he'd ask in coffee shops, to baristas, to anyone who'd listen. Some turned away, Others offered small insights, pointing him toward familiar corners of the city. On a gray afternoon, Charlie's hands trembled as he approached a park where children often played. The air was crisp, and the leaves crunched underfoot. His heart thudded louder than the ambient noise around him. He scanned the area, scanning for familiar faces in a crowd of oblivion. Then his eyes locked on two figures beneath an ancient oak, small and vulnerable against the sprawling trunk. His breath caught in his throat. They looked like worn-out dolls, expressionless and limp, huddled close together on a cold bench. Charlie approached cautiously, his heart racing, torn between hope and fear. Was he imagining their reactions? Would they run from him once more? Mia! Jake! He called out, trying to keep his voice calm, though emotion clawed at him. Their heads lifted, and for a moment he thought time stood still. Mia's eyes widened with recognition, while Jake hesitated, uncertainty clouding his expression. Charlie? Mia whispered, her voice barely a breeze against the chill. Yes. It's me, he exclaimed, relief flooding through him like a warm wave. I've been looking for you both. I need you to come back. I can't do this without you. Jake's brow furrowed, skepticism mingling with hope. But what about what they said? The neighbors? They don't matter, he insisted, edging closer, taking a seat beside them. What matters is us. I can't let you go back to the streets. You deserve warmth, love, a family. Mia's uncertainty began to melt, tears gathering at the edges of her eyes. Family? She echoed, her voice trembling. Yes. Charlie reached out, taking both their hands in his. You are my family. Please don't leave me again. As they huddled together under the oak tree, something shifted. The fear of judgment faded into a constellation of hope hovering above them. They could form their own bond, untouched by the judgments of the outside world. But as evening approached, a dark storm brewed on the horizon. The weight of social expectations, the heavy judgment of society loomed as a greater threat. Would Charlie be able to protect his newfound family from the harsh world they had to face? Would they find a way to overcome the darkness that threatened to tear them apart? All Charlie knew was that this chapter had only just begun, and his fight for this unconventional family had just ignited a much larger battle. Would love prevail against such odds? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced around the park. Charlie felt the chill seeping into his bones, but nothing could touch the warmth radiating from Mia and Jake's small hands in his. Each pulse of their heartbeats against his palms reassured him they were here together. Mia caught his gaze, her eyes sparkling with unshed tears. You really want us to come back with you? She asked, a hint of disbelief coating her words. More than anything, Charlie said, squeezing their hands. I never should have let you go. I only thought about what everyone else might say. His voice trailed off, guilt knotting in his stomach. Jake looked away, a storm of emotion swirling behind his youthful facade. You don't know how hard it was. What people think matters, it always matters. Charlie's heart sank. The difficulty of their past weighed heavy on him. They were just kids. They shouldn't have to carry that burden alone. What matters is how we make each other feel, and I want you both to feel safe and loved. Mia's tears spilled over, cascading down her cheeks. We've never had a home. What if you get tired of us? Never, Charlie whispered fiercely. You're my family. No one is going to push you away. We'll face this world together. The warmth of the moment flickered, though, as the reality of their circumstances crashed back in. The shadows lengthened, crawling forward like dark claws threatening to drag them back to solitude. The weight of the world outside the park loomed larger than any threat he had faced. Charlie inhaled deeply, a decision forming in his mind. Let's go home. Talk about it over hot chocolate. There's a lot we need to figure out. For a brief moment, Mia hesitated, glancing back toward the street. But Jake stepped forward, his small frame filled with determination. Okay. Let us go. And in that moment, the trio stood united, walking toward the penthouse that had once felt so empty. Upon opening the door, Charlie made a silent vow to fill it with laughter again. He filled the kettle with water, the familiar sound of pouring echoing through the kitchen, mixing with the quiet rhythm of hope. In the warm glow of the kitchen light, he unpacked a box of supplies he had hastily assembled, an assortment of snacks, cozy blankets, and 2 oversized mugs, one decorated with a cartoon character for Mia and the other plain for Jake. "You guys sit down. I got this," Charlie said, a smile making its way onto his face as he glanced over at the twins. "Okay, Chef Charlie." Mia giggled, her initial hesitations beginning to flicker away in the light of his energy. While he boiled the water, Charlie thought of the challenges ahead. He could feel the gap between them and him, the feeling of being an adult responsible for children who had faced too much already. "I will protect you," he whispered under his breath, hoping the universe could hear. Minutes later they curled up on the couch, steaming mugs in hand. As he watched Mia and Jake dip their mouths into chocolatey warmth, Charlie felt the edges of the dark storm outside loosening their grip. They were wrapped in a blanket of peace, however fragile. "Mia, Jake," he began, suddenly serious. "We need to talk about school, and how to make this feel like home." Jake's face fell. "School? They want us, that's not true," Charlie interrupted, determination lacing his voice. "You're so much more than your past. We'll find a way to show them who you really are. You both deserve that chance." Mia smiled softly, hope rising in her heart like a delicate blossom. But somewhere behind Jake's eyes, doubt lingered. As the night grew darker and the city's lights flickered on beyond the windows, an unsettling question crept into Charlie's mind. What if acceptance proved to be even more difficult than he anticipated? What if the world outside was just as unforgiving as it had been for Mia and Jake? And with that, he realized their journey was only beginning, and the battles ahead may challenge them in ways they never imagined. Would the strength of their bond be enough to weather whatever storm lay ahead? The next morning, sunlight spilled into the penthouse through the large windows, bathing the living room in a warm glow. Charlie woke to the sound of laughter. He blinked, disoriented, before realizing the twins were already awake. They had turned the old kitchen table into a makeshift fort with blankets, their giggles echoing against the walls. A smile crept over his face. It was the kind of sound he had longed for, home echoed with laughter rather than silence. He made his way into the kitchen, the smell of coffee filling the air. Mia sat cross-legged on the table, and Jake was pretending to be an explorer in the depths of a jungle. "Mornin', Captain!" Mia exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with mischief as she spotted Charlie. "Jake and I are on a quest to find the hidden treasure. Are there danger traps?" Charlie asked, stepping fully into the role. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, enjoying the moment. "Only wild animals," Jake replied, holding up a toy dinosaur victoriously. "Then I guess I'd better join you before it's too late," Charlie said, lunging toward the table, and the three of them erupted into laughter. Moments like these filled Charlie's heart with renewed resolve. But as they settled down for breakfast, cereal, toast, and more of that beloved hot chocolate, an idea struck him. "How about we work on our treasure map?" he suggested. "We can draw what we want our new life to look like." Mia's eyes lit up. "Can I draw a tree? With swings?" "Absolutely," Charlie replied. "And what about you, Jake?" Jake hesitated, his young mind working hard to navigate uncharted waters of his dreams. "A park where we can play soccer. And in a school that welcomes us." His voice faltered for a moment, but then he added, "and a superhero hideout." Charlie's heart swelled at Jake's creativity. "That sounds perfect. Let us make sure our map has everything we could wish for." While they worked, the atmosphere was filled with light banter and creativity, but Charlie still felt the shadows of uncertainty creeping around the edges. He had made a commitment, but commitment meant nothing if the outside world proved to be a barrier. As they plotted out their treasure map on a large sheet of paper, Mia suddenly stopped. "Charlie, what if someone doesn't like us at school? What if they make fun of our clothes?" "People can be mean sometimes," Jake added quietly, swirling his cereal as if the very act could drown out his concerns. Charlie paused, words failing him for a moment. It hurt to think of the struggles they'd face, especially when all he wanted was to protect them from the pain he knew all too well. We can't control what others do. But if we stick together, we'll face whatever happens. You both have so much to offer. Trust yourselves, and trust each other. Mia nodded slowly, and Jake managed a weak smile. After breakfast, Charlie decided it was time to venture into the world. Let us go explore the neighborhood. We can check the park where Jake wants to play soccer. With hats pulled low and sleeves rolled up, they descended the stairs together, Charlie leading the way. The air outside felt crisp, and the neighborhood buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the confines of their penthouse. But as they walked toward the park, Charlie noticed the stares of some passerby. Whispers danced between the trees, some glances didn't feel welcoming at all. Jake stepped closer to him, his tiny hand gripping Charlie's tightly. They're looking at us, just keep your chin up, buddy, Charlie said, trying his best to mask the tremor in his own voice. We're a family now. And family has each other's backs. After passing a few more blocks, they reached the park. The sight of children playing brought a wave of hope. Mia and Jake's faces lit up at the sight of a soccer game underway. With a flutter of determination they approached, but as they neared the field, Charlie felt a deep pit in his stomach. Would they be accepted? Would the world beyond their penthouse be better than what they had left behind? Just then, an older boy kicked the soccer ball in their direction, sending it rolling right to Jake's feet. Charlie could see the hesitation in Jake's eyes, an internal struggle on whether to engage or retreat. Mia tugged at his shirt. Can we play? Please? All right, kiddo. This is it, Charlie thought. He stepped forward, heart pounding, ready to shield them from whatever came next. Let us play! Jake exclaimed, taking a tentative step toward the group. But would the reception be friendly or brutal? Would this be the beginning of their acceptance, or just another chance for rejection? Charlie stood at the edge of the field, holding his breath, knowing that everything hinged on this moment. Jake hesitated for a split second, staring down at the soccer ball at his feet. The world around him seemed to fade. Charlie could almost hear the rapid thuds of Jake's heart, the fears swirling in his little mind. But just then, Mia took his hand and squeezed it. Her encouragement seemed to radiate through him. Come on, Jake, she urged, a grin breaking across her face. What's the worst that could happen? With a deep breath, Jake squared his shoulders. He looked up at Charlie for reassurance. Charlie forced a smile, nodding firmly. I got your back, little man, he said, letting out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Jake took another step forward and shouted, Hey, can we join? The group of kids playing soccer paused. Charlie stood at a distance, heart pounding harder than ever. Would they laugh? Would they accept Jake and Mia? The older boy who had kicked the ball glanced over. He was tall, with messy hair and an expression as serious as a referee. Sure, but you gotta keep up. Charlie felt a wave of relief wash over him. Mia's eyes sparkled, and she tugged on Jake's hand, urging him to go. They joined in, and for that moment, the outside world felt a little lighter. As they ran onto the field, Charlie watched with pride but still kept a watchful eye. Every laugh and shout from the twins felt like a tiny victory against all the unknowns hovering around them. Mia dashed off, giggling as she chased after the ball. Jake was right behind her, full of energy and purpose. It was a far cry from the fear that had gripped him just minutes ago. But just as Charlie began to relax, he noticed a couple of kids whispering. Their eyes were fixed on Jake and Mia. Murmurs floated over, and Charlie's heart sank. Who are those new kids? One sneered. They look weird. Charlie clenched his fists, feeling the weight of their judgment. He wanted to step in, to shield them, but he held back. They had to learn to stand tall, even when faced with stares and whispers. Jake, sensing the tension, looked back at Charlie. He seemed to be searching for an anchor. In a split second, Charlie met his gaze and offered him a thumbs up. Let us go, Jake. You've got this, he called out. With a deep breath, Jake straightened his back, letting out a burst of laughter that momentarily quieted the murmurs around them. He stomped his foot loudly against the grass, claiming his place on the field. Suddenly, the game resumed, laughter echoing once more. Minutes turned into an exhilarating blur as Jake scored a goal, his face lighting up in pure joy. Charlie couldn't help but revel in the sight, the sound of excitement washing away the earlier whispers. But as the game progressed, Charlie noticed the older boy from earlier. He was watching Jake now, scrutinizing as he dribbled the ball. For a moment, Charlie held his breath, the tension palpable. Then, the boy broke into a smile. "Nice move!" he shouted, and an unexpected wave of encouragement rippled through the group. Charlie's heart swelled. Maybe, just maybe, the world outside their little bubble wouldn't be so harsh after all. In that instant, everything shifted. Mia squealed as she joined Jake's side, both of them grinning. They were no longer just the new kids. They were part of the game, part of the laughter, part of something bigger. But as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the park, Charlie's phone buzzed in his pocket. The sudden reminder of reality shook him. There was a meeting he couldn't avoid. The weight of uncertainty crept in again. What was waiting for him when he returned home? Would it change everything they had just begun to build? Charlie took a deep, steadying breath, rooted in the joy of the moment but aware of the looming shadows. Would this sense of belonging last? As the game wrapped up and laughter filled the air, he knew he had decisions to make. In the midst of all the joy, a truth emerged. Every step forward came with its own challenges. The light and warmth surrounded them, but darkness lingered near. As Jake and Mia ran toward him, flushed with excitement, Charlie couldn't help but wonder what the next chapter held, and more importantly, could their newfound happiness survive the storm that would inevitably come? As the last whistle blew, signaling the end of the game, Jake and Mia darted towards Charlie, their faces glowing with excitement. Jake's hair clung to his forehead with sweat, but his smile brightened the fading sunlight. Mia twirled around him, her laughter mixing with the distant cries of other kids packing up to leave. "Did you see me, Charlie? I scored a goal!" Jake exclaimed, his voice bubbling over with joy. "Of course I did. You were amazing!" Charlie leaned down, pulling Jake into a hug that felt like forever. The warmth of his boy's excitement wrapped around him, momentarily shielding him from the weight of the world that awaited at home. Mia bounced on her toes, her enthusiasm infectious. "And I almost got the ball from that big kid. He was super fast," she chirped, her eyes sparkling like stars. "That's awesome, Mia," Charlie said, ruffling her hair. It was a simple moment, yet it shone with a brilliance that felt extraordinary. He wondered if, perhaps, today could mark a beginning, a turning point where laughter and love overpowered the shadows. But just then, Charlie's phone buzzed again. He hesitated to check it. The vibration in his pocket felt like a cold reminder that reality was looming just beyond their happy bubble. He glanced at the screen, heart racing, as anxiety gripped him. "Daddy?" Jake's voice broke through his thoughts, pulling him back to the present. "Are we going to play again tomorrow?" Charlie forced a smile to mask his worry. "Absolutely. We'll make it a thing, okay?" Mia jumped in excitement. "Can we bring snacks?" "Definitely," Charlie replied, the corners of his mouth lifting. But inside, he was wrestling with the gnawing uncertainty of their situation. The looming meeting felt like standing on the edge of an abyss. What if things went wrong? What if tomorrow held more storms instead of sunshine? They walked back towards the car, hand in hand, Charlie scanning the surroundings. The park was now quieting down, remnants of laughter still echoing in the air. As they approached the car, he spotted the older boy from the game standing to the side, talking with a couple of his friends. "Hey!" Jake piped up, his curiosity overcoming any lingering trepidation. "You were really good out there." The boy turned, eyebrows raised in surprise. His friends seemed taken aback, but he grinned, an unexpected warmth in his bright blue eyes. "Thanks. You too, man. That was a serious goal." Charlie felt a flicker of relief wash over him. Maybe, just maybe, walls could break down, bonds could form even in fleeting interactions. As they climbed into the car, Charlie turned off the ignition and wrestled with his heart. He hated the idea of retreating to a living situation that felt more like a looming anxiety than a home. How could he keep the twins' spirits high when their home life felt so incredibly uncertain? "Are we still going to find a real house someday?" Jake asked, reading the heaviness etched into Charlie's features. "Of course we are," Charlie replied, forcing a reassurance he barely felt himself. "We'll find the perfect place where we can play all the time, just like today." With that, a hush fell over the car. Just the hum of the engine broke the silence. Jake leaned his head against the window, and Mia played with the loose threads of the seatbelt. As he drove, the sunlight faded into dusk, casting purple and orange strokes across the horizon. The winding road felt both familiar and haunting. Charlie's heart thudded with a mixture of hope and dread. What awaited them on the other side of the hill? As they neared home, the neighborhood began to shift. Charlie couldn't shake the sense that change was in the air. Something was evolving, but he wasn't sure if it was for better or worse. Then, another buzz, this time louder. His phone lit up again, an unknown number flashing on the screen. His stomach twisted. What if it was news that would seal their fate? Or perhaps something else entirely? "Just a sec, kids. I need to check this," he said, the device feeling heavier in his hand than a boulder. As Charlie pressed answer, his breath hitched. The voice on the other end would change everything or nothing at all. What hung in the balance? "Charlie?" The voice was low and shaky, but unmistakably familiar. A wave of recognition swept over him, followed by a rush of memories he had buried deep. "Jenna?" he breathed, trying to steady himself. It had been years since they last spoke, years since she walked away from everything. "Yeah. Oh God, I didn't know how to reach you," her voice cracked, filled with a mix of regret and urgency. "I'm in town and I need to see you. It's important." A cold shiver crawled up Charlie's spine. The weight of her request hung in the air, dense with unspoken words. He glanced back at the twins. Jake was now focused on the glow of his phone, while Mia was absent-mindedly fiddling with her drawing pad. He loved them more than anything, but Jenna's sudden reappearance felt like a storm brewing. "Is it about the kids?" he asked, his heart racing. The mere mention of their names ignited a protective flame within him. "No, it's not about them. I can't explain it all over the phone. Please, can we meet?" The urgency was palpable, even through the stagnant air of the car. Charlie's mind raced with emotions: curiosity, anger, fear. Why now? Why after all this time? "Where?" he finally managed to ask. "Do you remember the old diner on Maple Street? The one we used to go to?" "Yeah, I remember," Charlie replied, hesitant. "And what makes you think I'd want to meet you there?" "Please, just give me a chance to explain," Jenna begged, desperation almost breaking through the phone. "I promise it's worth it." Charlie took a deep breath, weighing the decision heavily like stone in his gut. Was this really worth the risk? Memories of a fractured past twirled in his mind, warning him of the dangers of opening old wounds. But when he glanced at Jake and Mia, both with their own unfinished chapters of heartache, he felt a flicker of hope ignite. What if this meeting held answers, a path forward? "Fine. I'll meet you," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "But only for a few minutes. I have the kids." "Thank you. I'll see you soon." As Charlie ended the call, silence cascaded back over the car. The twins seemed oblivious to his turmoil, wrapped up in their own little worlds. "Daddy?" Jake asked, looking up. "Who was that?" "Oh, just someone from the past," Charlie replied, waving it off, but he felt a small cord of unease tugging at his heart. Why had he told them that? They didn't need to know about parents who had slipped away before they could even remotely understand. The diner was just a short drive away, its flickering neon lights a beacon in the growing darkness. Charlie's hands tightened around the steering wheel as doubts swirled in his mind. What could Jenna possibly have to say that would matter now? When they arrived, he let out a deep breath, scanning the parking lot. He spotted Jenna sitting alone in a booth, fingers tapping nervously against the tabletop. She looked older, perhaps worn by life, but still carried the same essence that drew him in all those years ago. He turned to the kids. "Stay close, okay?" I'll be right back. Jake nodded, while Mia bounced with excitement, but Charlie could only muster a thin smile as he approached the booth. Jenna, he greeted, trying to mask the whirlwind of emotions surging. Charlie, she replied, her eyes shimmering with something he couldn't decipher. Why are you here? He asked, diving straight in. Jenna hesitated, a shadow flickering across her face. I've made some mistakes, and I need your help. Just as he was about to unleash a wave of questions, the door of the diner swung open, a gust of air bringing with it an overwhelming sense of foreboding. A man stalked in, his eyes scanning the room until they locked onto Jenna. Charlie felt his heart race anew. Who was he, and why did he look like he belonged in the darker corners of a world Charlie had fought hard to escape? Charlie, listen, Jenna started, but her voice was drowned out by the chaotic storm brewing just behind them. What now? Charlie thought, dread creeping back in. This was not just a meeting, it was an unraveling. The truth was closer than ever, but in that split second, Charlie wondered just how much was he willing to risk? What secrets lay buried that could change everything for him and the kids? Jenna's eyes darted to the man who had just entered the diner, her body tensing as if she could sense Charlie's rising concern. The diner, once a sanctuary filled with flickering neon and comforting grease, now felt like a cage closing in. Jenna, who is that? Charlie asked, his voice barely more than a whisper, tightened by a mix of protectiveness and anxiety. The newcomer was tall, dressed in a leather jacket that looked like it had seen better days. He had a wild look in his eyes, a storm brewing in the chaos of his expression. I can't explain right now, Jenna stammered, glancing over her shoulder. It was a moment of hesitation that didn't sit well with Charlie. Just promise me you won't get involved. Get involved? He shot back, the words snapping through the air like a taut string. You bring me here and now I can't be involved? You can't just drop this on me and expect me to stand by. The man advanced toward their booth, a sinister grin creeping onto his face. Charlie's instincts kicked in. He needed to protect his kids, protect Jenna. Whatever was happening here suddenly felt much larger than their past. Mommy, look! Mia's innocent voice cut through the tension, her eyes wide with excitement. She had spotted the jelly beans on the diner counter, seemingly unaware of the brewing storm around them. Jake, ever the cautious twin, stayed beside her, glancing back at Charlie with uncertainty. Mommy? Jenna's anguish was palpable, an unspoken apology lodged in her throat. Charlie, Jenna began, but their visitor interrupted. Thought I'd find you here, Jenna? The man's voice was slick, dripping with menace. You've kept your head down long enough. We need to talk. Jenna's face went pale. Not here. Oh, I think this is the perfect place, he smirked, moving to sit across from her without invitation. You've got your precious kids around. Makes it all the more interesting, don't you think? Get away from us. Charlie interjected, feeling every instinct in his body flare up. He stood protectively in front of Jenna, emotions boiling over. Whatever you want, it's not happening here. Easy there, big guy, the man chuckled. I'm just here to make sure Jenna knows what's owed. You don't want to get involved in things you don't understand. His gaze fell to the twins, narrowing. And kids, they can complicate things, can't they? The tension escalated like an electric charge in the air. Charlie felt Jake's small hand grip his leg, the boy's fear evident. Behind them, Mia had completely forgotten the jelly beans and was now eyeing the scene play out in confused silence. Jenna, Charlie began, trying to rein in the chaos. What's going on? I made choices, Charlie, she finally confessed, her voice barely above a whisper now. Bad ones? I thought I could leave it behind, but it keeps coming back. I didn't want this for you or them, but it's all spilling over. Help me help you, he pleaded, feeling the thin thread of hope pull taut. Just tell me what's happening. The man scoffed, leaning back with a mixture of amusement and contempt. Maybe you should have stayed away, now you're in the deep end. Before Jenna could respond, Charlie's phone buzzed ominously, vibrating against his leg. The clock was ticking, and he could feel it in his chest. I need to protect my kids, he asserted, his voice rough with determination. "Whatever mess you've brought into our lives, it stops now." "Charlie, please," Jenna's voice cracked, heavy with regret wrapped in fear. If you only knew, but in that moment, Charlie knew one thing. This was just the beginning, and the heaviness of impending danger loomed closer than he cared to admit. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," he whispered, taking a stand that felt equally terrifying and liberating. But as the man sneered, fixing a chilling gaze on him, Charlie's heart sank. Sometimes, standing together brings risks that change everything. And just as doubt began to sink in, another figure caught Charlie's eye, a familiar face approaching the diner. Someone who had been a chapter from his past. Someone who might just complicate matters even more. What was it about this night that was unraveling every thread of his life? The jangle of the diner's bell echoed as the familiar figure stepped inside, the world outside dimming like a flickering light bulb. Charlie's stomach twisted with recognition. It was Sarah, his high school sweetheart, the girl he thought he'd left behind with all the other ghosts. She caught his eye, searching for him amid the dwindling crowd and the haze of greasy fries and burnt coffee. "Charlie," she said breathlessly when she reached their booth, disbelief coloring her tone. "I didn't expect to see you here." Her presence felt warm, like a sudden ray of sunshine cutting through storm clouds. But all Charlie could think about was how the winds had changed. The tension between him and Jenna was palpable, and now Sarah's arrival only thickened the atmosphere with confusion. She didn't deserve to be swept into this mess. "Mia, Jake, why don't you go choose something to eat?" he said quickly, ushering the twins toward the counter even as his gaze remained locked on Jenna and the man still glaring at him. Mia pulled her brother away, excited by the prospect of sugary treats but already sensing something was off. Charlie's heart ached for them, for the innocence they clung so tightly to. He returned his focus to Jenna, searching her face, but she looked lost, dappled in shadows of fear and anguish. "Charlie, we need to get out of here," Jenna said, her voice shaking. "No," the man crooned, leaning forward, his grin widening into something more predatory. "This is just the start, sweetheart. You've stirred up the pot when you thought you could walk away." Charlie felt the heat of anger surging like fire in his veins. "What's this all about?" he demanded, voice low but intense. "Who are you?" "Just someone who knows Jenna's story. And trust me," he continued, his eyes darting to the twins, "those kids will want to know the truth someday." The words hung in the air like a storm cloud filled with unanswered questions. Jenna's face blanched, and for a brief moment, something in her expression shattered. "Don't!" she hissed suddenly, the urgency in her voice sharp. "You don't know anything about them." "Ah, but I do." He leaned back, folding his arms with a devil-may-care attitude. "And all I'm saying is, secrets have a way of bubbling up, especially when families like yours are involved." Charlie's chest tightened with dread. "You're threatening my family now?" Chuckles rolled out of the man like smoke. "Not a threat, just a friendly warning. You see, Jenna's past has a way of creeping back, and it doesn't care about your protective instincts." Just then, Sarah stepped closer, her brows furrowing. "What's going on, Charlie? Who is this guy?" "Someone who knows Jenna's mistakes," Charlie replied, voice strained. "Someone who thinks he can drag us into whatever hell she's been trying to escape." "Enough," Jenna said, her voice rising, shaking the table as she sat forward. "You don't get to do this. I'm not playing your game anymore." "You think you can just walk away?" he countered, his tone sharp. "Those debts don't disappear, Jenna. You owe me, and you have no idea the price yet." Mia returned, jelly beans in hand, eyes bright, unaware of the darkness blooming around them. "Mommy, look!" she exclaimed with childish glee. "Can I have some?" The man's smirk deepened, a stark contrast to the innocence Mia projected. Charlie felt the weight of the world settle on his shoulders. He realized Jenna was not just fighting for herself anymore, she had the twins in this battle too. "Jenna," he whispered, the resolve washing over him, "we can't let them take you away." She met his eyes, and for a moment in that chaotic diner, their shared fears fused into something stronger, determination. But before she could respond, the man stood up, fixing his gaze on Charlie. This is what happens when you get too close to a runaway. Next time, it might not just be words. Think about that. And with that ominous warning, he strode out, leaving a thick silence behind. As Charlie looked back at Jenna, he couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just entered a fight they never asked for, a storm that was just beginning to break. Charlie, Jenna started, but the words tangled in the air, heavy with uncertainty. In that moment, Sarah squeezed his shoulder, a grounding presence as he fought against the tide of emotions threatening to engulf him. What are we going to do? That simple question, sharpened by fear, was all it took to send Charlie's heart racing. They were in deeper than he realized, and the consequences of Jenna's past loomed closer than ever. But just then, the door swung open again. A new figure entered, a glimmer of hope, or another complication? Charlie's heart thundered in his chest as he turned to face this new arrival, not knowing if it would lead them towards salvation or chaos. Amidst the whirlwind of emotions, the door of the diner swung open yet again, and with it, Charlie's heart raced. A figure emerged, short, with messy hair and a familiar demeanor. It was the cafe owner, Mrs. Thompson, a pillar of the community known for her warm smile and swift wit. She noticed Charlie immediately and made her way over. "Charlie, what a surprise to see you here. I hope you weren't taking this busy life too seriously." A sigh of relief spread across him. Her presence felt like a sudden anchor amidst the chaos. He turned to Jenna, then back to Mrs. Thompson, though the weight of their conversation hung heavily in the air. Jenna's face was taut with anxiety, and Charlie was still reeling from the threats just exchanged. "Mama, can we get a slice of pie?" Mia called from the other side of the booth, her childish enthusiasm shining like a beacon. "Of course, sweetheart." Mrs. Thompson smiled, her warmth softening the tension. "Let me get those right now." As she walked away, Charlie could see the worry etched on Jenna's face. "I can't let this fallout ruin them," he thought fiercely. "I need to keep them safe." Charlie, Jenna attempted to speak, but he cut in vigorously. "No more running, Jenna. No more hiding," he said, grounding himself. "You need to be here for them." "I know," Jenna replied, voice low. "But it's complicated. I never meant for them to be part of this life. The debts, they're not yours to carry. They may not be mine by blood, but they're mine by heart," Charlie countered, his own voice trembling with truth. "I won't let anyone touch our family." As Mrs. Thompson returned, she dropped a plate of pie in front of the twins, who squealed with delight. "Dig in, kids! Sweetness for your hearts." Distracted for a moment, laughter filled the air, a brief escape. But as they savored the pie, the heaviness of responsibility hung in Charlie's mind. "Charlie," Jenna's voice broke through again. "We might need to consider other options." "What do you mean?" "Like what? Running again? Ignoring it?" "No, I mean I have a contact." "Absolutely not," he retorted sharply, shaking his head. "We don't slip back into that life, Jenna. You said you're done? We face this together. No more danger. Sometimes the truth brings more than we've bargained for. I won't just let you put yourself at risk." "What risk?" Charlie questioned, frustration rising. "You think I'm scared? After what just went down?" At that moment, the tension morphed into something different as the weight of both their pasts bore down. But as Charlie looked at the twins, he felt a clarity unfold. "Help me help you," Jenna begged softly, desperation lacing her words. "Let us break this cycle." And in that moment, a flicker of understanding emerged. Instead of dividing, they were united. "All right," Charlie relented, a newfound strength weaving around him. "We take it to them. The three of us. Together." Mia and Jake, immersed in pie, didn't quite grasp the severity of the situation, but their joy radiated innocence. Suddenly, the door swung open violently again, yet somehow Charlie stayed calm. A woman stepped in, dressed sharply, authority radiating from her very presence. It was his former attorney, the one who had made promises years ago. "Charlie," she said, escalating concerns etched on her sharp features. "I was nearby and got the message about a meeting. It looks like we have a storm brewing." His breath caught. This day wasn't he letting up. Let us leave this restaurant. Get somewhere safe, she urged, her voice low and urgent. He turned to Jenna, seeing a flicker of recognition pass between them. No more secrets, no more running, but we need to go now. Okay, Jenna whispered, acknowledging the unspoken truth hanging in the air. But if we're doing this, we need to protect the kids at all costs. Charlie nodded with determination. Right. No one touches what's ours. Mama? Mia chimed, sensing the change, muffin crumbs framing her smile. Are we going on an adventure? Something like that, Charlie replied, lifting her spirits. An adventure to keep us safe. Then, with Jake nestled firmly under an arm, and Jenna closely behind, they ventured out together, facing whatever lay ahead. As they stepped into the crisp night air, a new resolution surged through Charlie. This was no longer just about confronting the past. It was a declaration of family, a promise of unyielding love. The weight of the world felt lighter, if only for a moment. Side by side, they were ready to face whatever storm awaited them, and as they crossed the threshold of the diner, they moved forward together into the vast unknown, hearts intertwined, igniting the light of hope in a battle that would shape their future. Together, they were unstoppable. Now the real story was poised to begin, and they would fight for every second. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread this journey far and wide. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending, because you matter in this story. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's uplift each other.